Hello, and welcome to another edition of All or None, according to Jack, with your host, Jack Toledano. So, funny story. So, a few weeks back, what, maybe 2, 3 weeks back, going back to early October, I took an excursion down to Florida, uh, and I thank my friend Mark Weinstock, bottom of my heart, for inviting me to see the Giants face his own Miami Dolphins at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, Florida. Uh, Giants sucked, but you know what? I went down. I had a great time. Spent the day with him. Had dinner the previous night. It was a nice drive down to South Florida from the auto train, which I'm going to get into that in a minute. Um, so yes, so I took the auto train and you know went down to the Dolphins Giants game. Uh, got sick of watching my team suck so bad. Then I drove north to Daytona, spent the week with my parents, and then that Saturday I got back on the train. So if you saw my other episode, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, I talk about the difference between taking a long trip on a train versus taking a plane. So there are some aspects that I really loved about taking the train, but one of them I don't love so much is trying to fill the time because you're on that train for a long freaking time. So they have you board at 3:30 in the afternoon. Uh, then they gotta like put all the cars together. Then you're waiting. They finally get you going between say 4:30, 5 o'clock. Then you're on that train until basically 9:30 the next morning, 9:30, 10 a.m. when you reach your destination, points between just south of Alexandria, Virginia, and Sanford, Florida, which is near Orlando. So I had to find some things to do, and fortunately, there was Wi-Fi on the train, though it was spotty at times. I tried to watch a movie, but froze on me a few times. So I'm like, screw that. I can't sit there and watch the little dial spin forever until I can actually, comes back. And I didn't want to go to the dining car, but but I was able to get YouTube videos. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, maybe why not catch up on some of my buddy Pete Pardo's videos over on Sea of Tranquility? And there was one video in particular that really caught my interest where he had a rant with four other people. We'll get to that about the fact that people don't really seek out new music anymore. Now, there was a couple trains of thought in my head. Uh, somebody, in fact, I think it was Jamie Laszlo who put it up on his site, Let's Get Physical, about how people don't really listen to new music anymore. And Pete made the statement there that he said, uh, it's because people are lazy. So, two trains of thought. So, one was I suggested at the bottom, I'm like, oh, maybe this would make a good episode. So, and which he agreed with me. So then, next thing I know, voila, there's an episode out there. So the first thing, should I be upset that I wasn't invited? Uh, but then, as it turns out, I'm not upset because you know what? I could not duplicate the effort that Jamie Laszlo put on that episode. And I will get into that. So the second thing, where he said people are lazy, you know what? That I take a little bit of umbrage with, and I'll tell you why. Uh, for myself, I know I'm a very busy guy. I have a house on Long Island, a house upstate. I'm constantly going back and forth between the two. Uh, uh, I did all this work upstate and it's starting to look beautiful, but now shit's starting to break in my house on Long Island, and I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. I got to start doing some repairs down here. Otherwise, you know what? My wife ain't going to be too happy. You know, the old saying, happy wife, happy life. So there you go. Uh, but also, I tend to listen to new music in spurts. It's not because I'm lazy. It's just because I'm very busy. And you know what? I work a 9 to 5 job. You know what? I don't listen to a lot of music because I got to focus on my job. And when I do listen to music, I'm more often than not, I listen to music that I already know because I can enjoy it in the background and I don't have to focus on it and I don't have to write notes about it. So take the album Songs from the Wood, Jethro Tull. I've heard that album a million times, but I can put that on because I don't have to write little notes about it because I know that album in my sleep. Another one, Rock and Roll Over, which I just listened to the other day. I don't have to write notes about that because I know every song, every freaking lick, every every power chord on that album, and I know when those power chords are going to be struck. It. Whereas new music, I kind of have to stop what I'm doing. I have to listen to it. Uh, I can actually listen to it while I'm driving in the car and heading upstate. Um, because it's just me and the road, and I can basically let my mind turn to mush and let it be a little more uh, of a sponge and absorb some of the music. Like, for example, I was upstate 2 weeks ago, and I'm just driving the country roads and looking for farms that I can gaze at and enjoy. And what did I put on? Hackney Diamonds by the Rolling Stones. And then, you know what? That was a good time to listen to it because I was able to absorb it. And you know what? I am going to review it, and I actually do like it. So something you can look forward to. So getting back to this. So because you're on the train for 16 freaking hours, um, you know, and I'm the type of person, I can't really watch a video that goes over, say, an hour or hour and a half. I just don't have that attention span. But sitting on that train, and this was a very hot topic, I actually watched the full hour and 11 minutes. And you know what? I was very impressed by what Pete and his guests had to say. So let's go to my notes. So basically, the music landscape or dynamic has changed and not for the better. I agree with that statement wholeheartedly. Years upon years ago, we wanted to listen to new music. All I had to do was put on WPLJ or WLIR, and they would pump out new music by these bands, all the new bands and established bands all the time. But now they just don't freaking do it. I mean, so before I put on Hackney Diamonds, I'm listening to the classic rock station, classic vinyl on XM radio. And right now I'm debating whether I want to keep XM radio or get rid of it because there's a few channels that I like, but they play the same shit over and over. And that includes classic vinyl. So the DJ announces, Rolling Stones just released a new album, Hackney Diamonds. So why the fuck didn't you play something from it? So instead, what does he do? He he cues up Sympathy for the Devil, a song that I may have heard 1,000 fucking times. Didn't need to hear it again. Why didn't you play something from Hackney Diamonds? So this is what we're talking about. Uh, Getting back to saying that I disagree with the statement that people are lazy. Some people are lazy. I don't think I am. There was a period of time in the late 90s where, you know what, music was just becoming boring to me. Too many of these radio stations were playing the same shit over and over and over, and you didn't have Spotify. And you know what? I actually wanted to buy some new music. So I went to this site called Metal Reviews, and from that site I was able to learn not a lot of great metal bands that I liked immediately, like Primal Fear and Iced Earth and Hammerfall and Symphony X, bands that I liked immediately, and I ended up giving them a lot of business because I went out and bought all these CDs. So I'm not. It's not because of laziness that I don't seek out new music as much as I should. Uh, I do seek out, and and we'll get to this one. So anyway, more on that discussion. But so Pete had on a show. He had George Lamy, Jamie Laszlo, Scott Lade, I believe he said his name was, and Brendan Snyder. Who Brendan we know has a very good, very successful channel similar to Pete Pardo's on. Uh, and I have watched him a few times, and he's got a lot of insight, so it's good stuff. But then so Jamie kicked us off, and let me tell you, he really had a real kick-ass presentation, and this basically won me over. His presentation about he made a really great case for places that you could go to look for new music. He basically spoke from the 3-minute mark till about the 18-minute mark. He just went off the freaking rails, as it were, while I'm on the train. Thankfully, I didn't go off the rails. At the 7-minute mark, it was worth it just to see him put that graduation hat on. Professor Laszlo, attorney of music. Gene Simmons made the stupid statement one time, rock is dead. No, it's not. You're just a moron and you didn't do your research. Kind of like you said, who was that guy, that football player that he was a great football player and we're trying to recruit him for our team. What the hell's his name? Tim Tebow, that's it. So Gene Simmons made the other brilliant statement that, oh yeah, Tim Tebow's a great football player. The backstory was that he and Paul, I guess they bought into this arena football team in Los Angeles, and they were trying to recruit this idiot to play for their team. Meanwhile, the guy can't throw a ball 5 yards. I think my son Jason, who made a middle school team, impressed the coach with his ability to throw it, you know, anywhere from nice crisp spiral 25 to 40 yards, whereas this guy can't throw it 10 yards to save his life. And you're saying that he's a good football player. Another stupid statement like, oh yeah, rock is dead. Meanwhile, we're still out touring and making millions of dollars into 2023. Ugh. Back to Jamie. So really great presentation. Jamie was segued into talking about different resources that and different sites that you can go to garner this or learn about this new music. One of them was Sea of Tranquility. One of them was Brendan's channel. One of them was Scott Lade's channel. Sorry, hiccups bad. But he also put a list of about 56 albums that he purchased in the year 2023 alone. Jamie, did you seriously purchase Dolly Parton? Did I seriously see Dolly Parton at the bottom of your list? Shame, shame. Beefed up that list a little. Just kidding. But very informative. Made a great case for why people should, people that like music, they should seek out new music. What I might do is I might try. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm listening to new music for reviews and for some album rankings. So my good friends, Ove Random and Dave Cretin, they've suggested some music for me to listen to so that we could do some ranking the albums. And I am actively listening to those, in addition to listening to some new albums by bands that are more established. But the next thing, as my schedule clears up, I probably will go back to some of Pete Pardo's reviews that he's done all year, and he cleverly labels the genre of music that these bands are in. So that might help me to, give them a quick listen to see if I like it and I want to pursue it. Uh, Other ways I've listened to new music, I wanted to put that Prague 15 playlist together. I garnered some new bands that I had never heard by listening to that. I came up with this idea of putting together a Russell Allen playlist of not just Symphony X, but his solo album and all his other projects that he's done. From that, I've learned of some new bands. Uh, that's going to be a video in itself. I'm digressing again. So Scott Lade, he has a site that apparently, and I've never seen this, I'll have to check it out. It's mainly prog rock music. At the 22-minute mark, he talks about a band that most people probably haven't heard called Wobbler. I have heard of them. Fortuitously, I went with Pete and some of my other friends to see a Nearfest in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, back in the mid 2000, or like I think it was 2004, 2005, and Wobbler happened to be there, and I heard them play. I met them, I interviewed them. Great guys, uh, extremely talented prog rock music. So I agree with Scott on that one. He talked for about 9 minutes, but he made me think of Eddie Trunk and the show, That Metal Show. Another moron who doesn't want to give the newer music its due. I remember an episode that I watched where he actually had Russell Allen, not only of Symphony X but also of Adrenaline Mob, on the show, and Russell was wearing a fedora, and he was there, I think, with Mike Orlando, and they were representing Adrenaline Mob because they were more pure metal, not prog metal and a little more prog rock like Symphony X was. And Eddie Trunk, he was introducing everybody, and he introduces Russell Allen. He's like, yeah, and he's in this great band, Symphony X. So I'm like, so then why the hell didn't you talk about them more? You gave him that little blurb, but why didn't you mention them a little more? Why didn't you, have them featured on your show with new music? That's my criticism of, Ozzy's Boneyard on Channel 38 and XM Radio. For Halloween, they had some bands. I think was it either Symphony X or Hammerfall, where they had them play a cover song. Play their newer shit, man. Pisses me off. So Pete also had a great point at the 27-28-minute mark about talking about prog rock, that people don't want to listen. People don't want to listen to the old band's new music. They don't want to. They don't want to hear change. They don't want to hear them evolve. So we're talking, or what is it? UK, Yes, Genesis, King Crimson. They just want to hear the old shit. They want it just to stay as it is. Case in point, Iron Maiden, when they put out the album, what the hell was it? In 2016, Book of Souls. I saw them on that tour, and I thought it was a great album and a great tour. There were people complaining, oh, they shouldn't play any of the new shit. It should just be the old shit. You know what? If that's the way it is, buddy, stay home and put on Live After Death and don't come to the fucking concert. He was right about people like that being hypocrites, They don't want the old bands to change, but they don't want to listen to the new prog rock bands who sound like the old prog rock. I don't get it. Uh, Scott Lade also mentioned, what was that band? Spock's Beard, a band that I listened to, just on a whim because I was trying to learn some new bands, and I liked them, and they were figured very prominently in my top 10 Prog 15 list. You ever want to go check that out? Uh, George Lamy, guy who I know and guy who I met at SoT Fest last year. Good guy, really good guy. He's been on my show a few times. He didn't start until the 28-minute mark. He talked mainly about jazz fusion and some Japanese fusion music. Uh, People let their biases show without making the effort. Uh, you know what? I couldn't agree more. That goes back to that old Iron Maiden thing. An example of that is Jethro Tull. So my wife and this friend of mine in my lodge, they say they hate Jethro Tull. My wife listens to the Beatles. She listens to the Carpenters. She listens to other easy listening music. Are you aware that a third of Jethro Tull's older catalog is easy listening music? So how could you say you don't like them without ever having heard of them or heard them? That's your bias coming out. Okay, so lastly, Brendan, I was very surprised didn't make it on till about the 35-minute mark, but I agreed with what he had to say. Older bands still putting out new music. I talked about Rolling Stones, with Hackney Diamonds just happened. Jethro Tull, two recent albums. I didn't really care for them, but at least I gave them multiple listens. I reviewed them on this, on this show. I did like his solo albums better, particularly Thick as a Brick 2 was probably my last really favorable Ian Anderson recording. Better than the one after it, better than the two return to use the Jethro Tull name. But you know what? At least I gave it listens. So I'm going to stop at about this point because you know what? Again, I only took notes up until about the 35, 40-minute mark. It's getting late and I gotta go to bed. But you know what? This basically is going to become an episode for reviewing the reviewer. I never thought that I would do this, that I would, review something on YouTube by my friend Pete. Uh, the idea of that show was to do more established, videos of established bands talking about albums like Deep Purple in rock, or Deep Purple Machine Head, or Iron Maiden, Number of the Beast, Fleetwood Mac Rumors. Uh, there are a bunch of others that I have in the works that I'm planning on. It was never my intention to do a reviewing the reviewer about Pete Pardo's video about new music. But you don't want to know something? I watched it, passed the time on the train, and I really liked it. And I dawned on me, maybe I could have a reviewing the reviewer about this. And I texted Pete, asked him if he thought it was okay, and he gave me the thumbs up. So thank you, Pete. Really great job. You guys did a very, had a very poignant argument about why people shouldn't be lazy and I shouldn't use that term lazy. Why people shouldn't, and at least maybe, I don't know, 20, 30% of the time of your music listening, try to seek out new music. Right now, I'm seeking out new music of newer, or rather, older bands that I already know, but at least I'm giving it a chance. I mean, one album that I gave a chance and I absolutely fell in love with it. Uriah Heep's Chaos in Color. That's an album that was released in 2023, so that album makes a very good case for the fact that, yes, there is some good music now. Rock and roll is not dead. And Gene Simmons, you're an idiot. Anyway, I'm tired. It's late. I'm going to hit the sack. Thank you, Pete, for giving me the permission to talk about that episode. I'm going to put the link uh, down below. So if anybody wants to go back and watch it, knock yourself out. Again, the guys made a great argument for why you should listen to new music, even though radio, uh, there's that song, Video Killed the Radio Star. Well, video killed itself. I mean, go to MTV nowadays. What do you listen? What do you see? The idiots of Jersey Shore talking about who's going to screw who and who screwed who and shouldn't have because they're in another relationship and who got their car towed or got a DWI or just Snooki in general. Have a good one, folks. Jack Toledano, all or not according to Jack. Have a good night.